What's up, guys? Welcome to In the Zone with Grant Cohn. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. You already know him. He is the face of Niners media, in my opinion. Grant Cohn. How you doing tonight, Grant?
Man, I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this the last couple of weeks. It's been a while since I've seen you, man. All of a sudden, you got a deep voice and a mustache, and that's pretty dope. So it's good. Time flies, man. How you been?
I'm doing good. Glad to be on with you once again. I haven't talked with you in a while. I haven't gotten a chance to call into the Cohn phone, so I'm glad to be back and talk some football with you.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Let's jump right into it. So if you saw the title
Yeah.
of the video, we were going to talk about does Trey Lance give the 49ers the best chance to make the playoffs. But before we jump into that topic, I want to jump into another topic, which also talks about our quarterback. Is it time to bench Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think it was time to bench Jimmy Garoppolo a long time ago. Here's the problem. Like, if Deebo Samuel's playing, I feel like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, but he's not playing right now. And I think it was kind of predictable that the Niners would struggle big time and maybe even lose to the Seahawks without Deebo. I'm not sure how many teams in the league right now the Niners can beat without Deebo. And the problem is that Jimmy gives you no big plays, none, and he turns the ball over. So I think, it's a high possibility Deebo won't play against Cincinnati. That's another game you could lose just because probably won't be able to run the ball. He's probably going to have to throw a lot. He's probably going to throw some picks. I mean, that puts you in a hole right there. So I would actually make the switch right now. I think that he's a detriment. They're trying to run the ball, and their running game is kind of weak right now. Deebo Samuel was making it look better than it is. What do you think? What do you think of me?
It was time to bench Jimmy Garoppolo after that Colts game. It was time to bench Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy that should be starting QB. Now, last week on my show with Ben that I do with Ben every Wednesday, I was like, Jimmy Garoppolo should be a starter. Good, for the rest of the season, because obviously Jimmy Garoppolo had that win against Minnesota. But after what I saw in Seattle, Jimmy Garoppolo should not be the starter. Jimmy Garoppolo makes the same exact mistakes. Yeah. He's a 9-year veteran in the NFL, and he makes the same exact mistakes as a rookie would. Both those interceptions on Sunday were just like mind-blowing to me. I'm like, you threw it to Bobby Wagner on one play, and then I don't know on the second interception if it was a miscommunication between you and Sherfield, but then that also another interception right to Quandre Diggs, who's the safety of the Seahawks. But Jimmy Garoppolo should have been benched a long time ago. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo should be a starter moving forward, because Jimmy Garoppolo makes the same exact mistakes like Trey Lance, like I said. But if Jimmy Garoppolo, when Jimmy Garoppolo struggles like he did in Seattle, there's no benefit. There's no benefit. Where if Trey Lance, and people are like, what if Trey Lance fails? Like, let's say we put out Trey Lance, and what if he fails? There's at least benefits of him going out there, and even if he does fail, right? There's some sort of benefit that he at least develops. He gains experience. So when I look at it that way, I'm like, if Jimmy Garoppolo screws up, Jimmy Garoppolo screwed up. Where if Trey Lance screwed up, he can learn from that, and he could go watch film after the game and analyze what he did wrong, and he can get better by playing, and that'll also help him coming into next season because he has experience. So yeah. I think the Niners.
People are like, well, Jimmy just gives the Niners the best chance to win right now. I don't really see that. I mean, I feel like Deebo is carrying him. You take Deebo out of the equation, and what goes first? The run game. Yep. There's no run game right now. Elijah Mitchell, not so effective. The run game would instantly return if you put Trey Lance in the game. If he were handing off instead of Jimmy, the run game would be more efficient. It would actually gain more yards per carry. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah, not even the run game being more efficient, but we saw in Seattle, right? Without Deebo Samuel, Jimmy Garoppolo straight up sucked. He straight up sucked.
He was terrible.
With Elijah Mitchell, the run game wasn't working, right? And let's say we go into the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter, and the run game isn't working, let's say Debo is out, because he was injured for the last 2 seasons and he's injured right now. That could be a lingering injury. We don't want it to be a lingering injury, but that could be. So let's say Debo's out in the playoffs for the next remaining games. If you neutralize the Niners' run game and you expect to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo to make the throws and make plays and win you football games using his arm,
Yeah.
no way.
It's
We
not going to
saw in
happen.
Seattle, Jimmy Garoppolo can't do that.
No, the reason they won 3 in a row is because of their running backs, and Debo Samuel was one of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of Debo Samuel. You take Debo out of the equation, it's response. Yeah, you take Debo out of the equation, it wasn't pretty. And when you
No.
need Jimmy Garoppolo to make the throws and make plays, he can't do that. And we saw, and that was just another showing on Sunday in Seattle that he can't do that. So,
No, I mean, not just 2 interceptions, but a safety as well.
yeah, that safety
Yeah.
was also so annoying. But
Yeah.
yes, well, moving on to the next topic. We
Mhm.
talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. Now let's talk about Trey Lance. Does Trey Lance give the 49ers the best chance to make the playoffs?
I think he does. I think he gives the 49ers the element of surprise. No one is prepared for what they can do with him. They say he knows the offense. Let him run the offense. In the one start he had against Arizona, he was not running the 49ers offense. He was in some college spread offense that was not what they put him under center. Let him hand off. I think the holes will be bigger. Right now, when Jimmy Garoppolo hands off and does that little, bootleg to kind of fake like he might keep the ball, no one honors that. When he's in the gun and he does a handoff, no one thinks he's going to run. I think Trey Lance the running backs will go from averaging 4 yards a carry to 5 yards a carry. That'll make a big difference. He'll average 5 yards a carry, and then he'll give you the big play through the air, plus the ability to scramble. Jimmy Garoppolo is pretty accurate. I mean, his completion percentage is good, and he gives you those conversions on third down, but Lance will give you the big play. I want the big play. And right now, the only big play in the Niners offense is Debo. That's going to be there regardless of the quarterback. If you have Debo and Trey Lance in the backfield together, we haven't gotten to see that yet. I want to see that. That would be very hard to deal with. And then you just add on the potential for the play act. The play action is gone from this offense. They don't even do it anymore. Hardly. You could bring that back. I can live with some scattershot throws from Trey Lance because, frankly, Jimmy scattershot too.
Yep. I think last week, like I said, also on bench, I said Jimmy Garoppolo should start for the rest of the season. I feel like he gave us the best chance. But after what I saw on Sunday, yes, Trey Lance gives us the best chance to make the playoffs. You look at what Jimmy Garoppolo, he sucked throwing the football in Seattle, but the Niners like to run the football. And when the Niners like to run the football, whatever, 20, 25 times a game, can't Trey Lance also do that? Trey Lance
Anyone
can do
can
that.
hand off to Debo.
Yeah, you can hand it off to Debo. He could do
Anyone
all that.
can do
But
that.
he could do all of that, but then also you could do what Baltimore did a couple of years ago in Lamar Jackson's MVP season, where they would have that, QB would either take it or they would just hand it off to running back. And the Niners, when they went up against Baltimore, we just couldn't stop it because either it was a handoff to Mark Ingram or Lamar just used to take it and break people's ankles. Now, Trey Lance isn't as shifty or, as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he's still a mobile QB. And he can extend plays where Jimmy Garoppolo can't. We saw it when he took that safety where Jimmy Garoppolo, even if he just threw the ball away, I would be fine if Jimmy Garoppolo just threw the ball away like Brady does. Like when Brady, the pocket is collapsing, if there's nobody open, just throw it away. Just throw it away. Unless he runs, which isn't likely, but he'll just throw it away. Where with Jimmy Garoppolo, he'll take the sack and he'll get like all scared and he'll go up in a ball. I'm just like, just throw it away. What did you not see from Brady doing in his whole career? When you were in New England, you should have taken that away and learned that from Brady. But he didn't. He just takes a sack in that safety where with Trey Lance, he can extend plays. He's a mobile QB, and the run game automatically improves when you plug in Trey Lance because a defense gets confused sometimes. Like, is Trey Lance taking it or is it going to the running back? And you can do that.
And real quick, I mean, I'm not sure how many teams that Jimmy Garoppolo can beat if Deebo Samuel isn't on the field. He's only missed one game, but they lost to Seattle. I'm not sure that Jimmy would have beaten Chicago a month ago without Deebo. So if it's all about Deebo and Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Jimmy Garoppolo contribution is just don't throw a pick. Like that's your job. Hand off to Deebo and don't throw a pick. I mean, really, I think, of course, Trey Lance gives him a better chance to win because I don't really see that Jimmy's helping very much. He gives you a couple throws on third down that are nice, but he also gives you a couple passes that are probably going to get picked. And the more he throws, the more likely you are to lose. So yeah, hell yeah, give me a quarterback who can improve the run game and run some himself, and give you the big play. I think it's an obvious calculation.
And not even mention like Jimmy Garoppolo throws over receivers' heads
He's not even that
20 feet
accurate.
over people's heads.
No.
Like sometimes, like even like that ball he threw to George Kittle. If that was if that was a little bit quicker, George Kittle could probably take it to the house. But he kind of like lobbed it up in the air, kind of like a duck, and he threw it like a duck, and he lobbed it up in the air. And George had to like turn around and grab it. Otherwise, he could have probably taken that to the house if that was a proper pass.
Like Amin, this week, Deebo Samuel probably shouldn't play against the Bengals. They'd be rushing him back. If he doesn't, are the Niners okay to just lose another game?
No.
Or are they going to do something different? I mean, I understand they don't want to like make a quarterback controversy, but you should be playing both quarterbacks at the minimum. I mean, the Niners might have beaten the Seahawks if they had gotten Trey Lance in the game. I mean, if you want to hand off the ball, if it's a run on first down, you want to hand off. You're averaging 2.5 yards a carry. Why not bring in Trey Lance to hand off and see how the defense reacts?
Yeah.
Just to see. Because as soon as Jimmy hands off, it's 10 on 11. He's not helping. If Trey hands off and fakes a bootleg, he might draw a defender with him.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Because like even when Jimmy get to does a handoff, nobody's like, oh, Jimmy might run with this one. Let's watch Jimmy. No, they're like, okay, the Niners are running the football. They've done this almost 20 times a game. And like
also, when you call a zone read on 4th and 1 with Jimmy Garoppolo in the backfield, the defense is going to want Jimmy to keep the ball. As opposed to if Trey Lance in the backfield, they're going to want Trey to hand off the ball. It's going to be different.
That play also annoyed me on Sunday because I'm like, you have Trey Lance sitting on the bench who's faster, who could probably get that yard or two, but then you decide to run that with Jimmy G.
Yeah, it was 4th and 1 too. If Jimmy G's on the field, do the quarterback sneak. He's good at that. He gets like 2 yards of carry on quarterback sneak. What are you doing?
I think that's the only thing that
he's just trolling us with that. That's a troll.
That's the only thing he learned from Brady in his time in New England is the QB sneak.
He's good at that.
He's really good at that.
That and handoff.
And yes, and my biggest question is, do you think the Niners could have been 6-6 with Trey Lance in the beginning of the season if they started in the beginning of the season? Yeah. They could have been 6-6.
Yes. Again, because this is a run-first team, and he enhances the run game. He enhances the run game. It's like in basketball, if you're a three-point shooting team, he's a three-point shooter. Jimmy's over there setting screens, getting credit for people shooting. Jimmy doesn't shoot threes. Jimmy's not helping. It's a run-first team. Trey runs. Trey's a running threat. Jimmy's over there handing off, watching. It's 10 on 11 with Jimmy in the backfield watching. It's like he's the guy setting the screen in basketball. Yeah, someone has to do it, but anyone can do it.
Yep. I think the Niners could have been 6-6 with starting Trey Lance this entire season because the Niners, like you said, are a run-first football team. Mm-hmm. Where you look at Seattle for the last couple of seasons, obviously Seattle has been struggling this season, obviously with Russell Wilson and his injury. He was missed some time. And I don't know if he's 100% healthy with his finger. But if you look at Russell Wilson and the Seahawks the last couple of years, Russell Wilson was the reason they won football games. Because Russell Wilson made plays. His offensive line wasn't the greatest. His weapons were good. But the defense was horrible for Seattle for the last couple of years. I said that Bobby Wagner, even Jamal Adams was horrible in coverage last year. But Russell Wilson made plays, and the Seattle Seahawks, pretty much his entire time that he's been there, especially for the last couple of years, when the team hasn't been that good, Russell Wilson has found ways to win football games. He just has, using his arm. Where with Jimmy Garoppolo, can you really say Jimmy Garoppolo, without, let's say even this against Cincinnati, without Deebo Samuel, and let's say Elijah Mitchell and the run game isn't efficient and it's not, working, having 5 yards per carry, and it's not dominating like it was against Minnesota in the times that we had that 3-game win streak, and it's not working well and it's not effective, and Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw the football. You really have faith in Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the football and winning you a football game?
Everyone points to that New Orleans game 2 years ago. He did it in New Orleans. Right, he did. And since then, in games when he's had to throw more than 29 times, so 30 or more times, he's 2-6. There's a reason that everyone always points to that game because that's it. That's pretty much it.
Yep. I mean, that New Orleans game, Jimmy Garoppolo played a hell of a game, but I'm going to give props to Kyle Shanahan
2 years ago.
On that one.
That
was 2 years ago, but also Kyle Shanahan had an amazing game plan. The run game was booming that game, and then Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan had a great game plan coming into the game. We had some great plays in that game. Jimmy Garoppolo made the throws. I'm not going to take anything away from Jimmy Garoppolo, but that was number one. That was 2 years ago. I don't want to hear anything about the 2019 season anymore. 2019 was a season where the stars aligned for the Niners, and everything worked out. And, the Niners made the Super Bowl. But did they win the Super Bowl? No, because Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously there was other factors like the defense and, Kyle not running the football. But Jimmy Garoppolo had an opportunity to make the throw to possibly win the Super Bowl. But what did he do? He overthrew it. Now, I'm not saying it's because of Jimmy we lost the Super Bowl, but did Jimmy Garoppolo have an opportunity to, win the game and, possibly win the Super Bowl? He did, but he
Yeah.
blew it. So, yes, I definitely do think Trey Lance gives the 49ers the best chance to make the playoffs. Moving on to the next topic. As it is right now, the Niners are the 7th seed. But if they win against Cincinnati and they win majority of the remaining games, the Niners could be the 6th seed again and they could play the Buccaneers. But now I ask you the question, who would you rather meet in the playoffs, the Packers or the Buccaneers?
Remember, I'm not a Niner fan, but if I was thinking who the Niners have a better chance against, man, I would probably say Green Bay. I don't trust Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. There's something about him. There's something about Tom Brady. It's not who you want to face in the playoffs when he has the home field advantage. That being said, neither one's a good option. I mean, Green Bay in the snow or Tom Brady with a home field. I mean, they're both worst case scenarios. And then the other option is Arizona, who you've lost to twice.
Yeah.
Yikes. I mean, really, what the Niners need to hope for is that they can get Dallas, but the only way they do that is by like beating teams like Seattle and getting to that 5th seed. So I guess I'm going to say Green Bay, but neither one's super appetizing.
Yep. Out of all those teams, like the two teams that I mentioned, I'm going to say the Packers. Now, I would love for the Niners to be the 5th seed. I would love for them to go and play Dallas as it sits right now because I think we could beat Dallas. Dallas is a vulnerable football team. Obviously, they won last week against the Saints, but the Saints were super banged up. But as it sits right now, I think we could possibly get the 6th seed if we, let's say possibly beat Cincinnati, would win majority of our games. But I would rather play the Packers because we almost beat the Packers at home. Now, Lambeau is a completely different story because Lambeau is cold if it's snowing. And with the Packers, they have some key injuries on that defense with Zadarius Smith being out, Jair Alexander being out. But the Packers' defense has still been really, really good this season, even with
That's
those
true.
two guys out. But like you said, Aaron Rodgers, he's not the greatest in the playoffs. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from Aaron Rodgers, but
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers' amount of times that he's made the NFC Championship game, the amount of times that he's lost is like, wow. But would I rather play Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs than the Packers? Even with the healthy Packers team in Lambeau, or rather play Brady and the Buccaneers in the playoffs first round? I would rather play the Packers. Now, the reason I'm saying the Packers over the Bucs also is because we know what Brady does in the playoffs. Like Brady, he drops games in the regular season. We saw it last year. They lost to the Saints twice. Now I get it, Drew Brees was the quarterback, but they lose some games in the regular season. But then come playoff time, Brady doesn't let that happen. Brady balls out, and the entire Buccaneers team steps it up. And obviously, Brady won the Super Bowl last year. And the Buccaneers are a team that's built to beat the Niners. Because what do they have? They have a good defensive line. But what is their one weak point? Their cornerbacks. But what is our weak point of our offense is our quarterback. So do
Yeah.
you really think Jimmy Garoppolo can take advantage of the dinged up corners in Tampa Bay? No, because Jimmy Garoppolo's not that guy. Jimmy
He
Garoppolo's not
takes
Aaron
advantage of
Rodgers.
linebackers and safeties. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't take advantage of corners. He's not going to thread the needle against the Buccaneers secondary. I have zero confidence Jimmy Garoppolo doing that. But what
Yeah.
are the Bucs really, really good at on defense? Is their defensive line. And Ndamukong Suh, Shaquille Barrett, Vita Vea. And the offensive line,
Right.
I mean, offensive line isn't bad, but two guys that stand out to me on the defensive line is Tom Compton, who's horrible in pass blocking. And then we have Tom Compton and Daniel Brunskill. And what does Daniel Brunskill struggle with? Is straight up bull rushers. And what is Vita Vea? Straight up bull rusher.
Yeah.
So some of those matchups are just not in the Niners' favor, and the Niners like to run the football. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the football effectively against that Bucs defensive line. So when I take all those factors in, can the Niners beat a Bucs team if they can't run the football when Jimmy Garoppolo wants to throw? Like I said before, no, I don't have faith in Jimmy Garoppolo doing that. I don't have faith in Jimmy Garoppolo taking advantage of that Bucs secondary, even though it's completely banged up. Richard Sherman they brought in, he's injured. Some of the starting guys are injured. The whole secondary is pretty much banged up. But do I have faith in Jimmy Garoppolo to take advantage of that in the
No.
playoffs? No.
No. Playoff?
So
No. No.
no. So I'd
No.
rather play the Packers. We were
Yeah.
37 seconds away from beating the Packers. Obviously, that wasn't
True.
Levi's, but I'd rather play the Packers. The Packers, I feel
Good
like,
call.
are an easier team. Even if it isn't Lambeau, even if it's snowing, even if they get back Jair Alexander or Zadarius Smith, I would rather play the Packers because we've done well against them in 2019. I know 2019 is 2019, but we were 37 seconds away from beating them this season. But one guy that I will not ever want to play in the playoffs is Brady. And that Bucs team is a nightmare matchup for the 49ers. So I would easily rather play the Packers. Well, before we jump into the next topic, we have some questions. 49ers daddy says, Amin the Dream, if we lose to Cincinnati, do you think Trey will start for the rest of the season? Do I think Trey will start for the rest of the season? No. Because do I think he should start for the rest of the season? Yes, I said it before, but do I think he will? No. Because especially I saw it in Seattle also. Jimmy Garoppolo screwed up so much. Safety, interception. And Kyle still didn't think of, let me put in Trey Lance, see how well he does. Because Jimmy Garoppolo's straight up sucking. He's not doing great, so why not put in Trey Lance? But no, Kyle's like, let me put Jimmy out there again and again. Jimmy Garoppolo screws up, and he'll still put him out there. I'm like, so what is it with Trey Lance? Either he's not good enough, or he's just not ready. And if he's not, and I can't make that statement that he's not good enough because I haven't seen him play more than one game. So then the only thing that comes to my mind is Trey's not ready. And then when I think of it like that, I'm like, Trey's not ready. That's not on Trey. That's on you, Kyle. Because Kyle, as a head coach, Trey should be ready. If you're the head coach of a team, you have till April to make this guy ready for the season. If he is needed, if you need him to play, he is ready. And by the looks of it right now, the way I'm thinking about it is that he's not ready. And that's on Kyle because Kyle's the one who should have made sure that Trey is ready. And that's my biggest theory, that I don't think Trey is ready. So do I think he will start for the rest of the season, even if they lose to Cincinnati? Even if Debo's playing and Jimmy Garoppolo and they lose to Cincinnati? No, I don't think they're going to start Trey Lance because Trey Lance should have come in again in that Seattle game, and he didn't. And the amount of times that Jimmy Garoppolo screwed up in that game should have been an eye opener for Kyle Shanahan to be like, you know what, let me put in Trey Lance to see how well he does and how well he performs. But he didn't. And that's just one of those things. That's just one of those signs that I'm like, either Trey is not ready or Kyle just thinks he's not good enough. So I don't think he's going to start for the rest of the season. And that game against Seattle just showed me because Jimmy Garoppolo screwed up time and time again. That Minnesota game, Jimmy Garoppolo threw one interception and he bounced back. The Chicago Bears game, I think he threw one interception or something like that, and he bounced back. But then 2 interceptions, a safety, and you still didn't decide to put in Trey Lance. Either he's not ready, or you think he's just not good enough.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that, Grant, or no?
I think you pretty much summed it up.
Yep. Well, moving on to the next topic. How big of a loss is Emmanuel Mosley for the 49ers? Now, obviously, shout out to Barry Baller in the chat. He's a huge Emmanuel Mosley guy. But how big of a loss is this for the 49ers?
I think it's bigger than the loss of Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey was okay, and Tom Compton is just, he's a decent run blocker, and he's awful in pass protection. Mosley, is he better at his job than McGlinchey? Yeah, I think so. They both play really important positions. They're both solid. I think Mosley's even better. But they're backups. It's so hard to have good backup tackles, good backup cornerbacks. It's just really, really a rare position to get good players. And now the Niners are down to Lenore, who got benched after a quarter in Seattle, and Dante Johnson, who should not play cornerback in the NFL. So, you look at this upcoming game against Cincinnati, not having Debo would hurt, but not having Mosley's going to hurt too, almost just as much. I'm not sure exactly how the Niners get this victory. And I'm not saying they won't, but they're definitely 1 point favorite, 1 point underdogs right now for a reason. I think this Mosley loss really hurts. Norman's has held his own. Maybe he hasn't been as bad as people as I've made it seem, but Lenore, man, he's really struggled since they benched him week 2. I don't know. What do you think?
This is a huge loss for the 49ers. Now the reason it's a huge loss, now obviously it's hard to get solid backup cornerbacks. And the Niners with Dante Johnson, who's just straight up horrible. and obviously with Verrett being out for the season. I remember you were saying in the offseason, what happens if Verrett goes down? And that wasn't that came true in week 1. That Verrett went down, and the Niners were pretty much we were concerned about the cornerback position. But one thing that frustrates me about this is that obviously it's going to be a huge loss for the 49ers, but I don't understand why the Niners don't value the position of corner. I don't understand. The Niners, one position that you just do not care about and they feel like it's just unimportant is the cornerback position. And the one thing that even frustrates me more is that you play in a division with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, AJ Green, OBJ, etc. And you still don't value the position of corner, especially the last couple of seasons when like guys like DK and DeAndre Hopkins used to go up against us and they used to have 100-yard games against us and just straight up dominate against our corners. And the fact that the Niners didn't draft a corner in the second round or draft a corner early makes me upset. Like Ambry Thomas, you drafted him in the 3rd round. He's not even playing for you. Besides special teams. Outside of special teams, he's not really playing his position. He's not a starter for your team. And then with Aaron Banks, that stupid Aaron Banks pick, you had a chance to draft Asante Samuel Jr. when you needed the position of corner. And you had the opportunity to draft a cornerback in Asante Samuel Jr. And you passed up on him. And you got Aaron Banks, who's inactive for majority of the games this season. So I just don't understand why the Niners don't value the position of corner. And like with Mosley going down, with Verrett, it was already bad that Verrett went down. Because we were all like, oh, we have no corners. We're pretty much screwed for us this season. And Mosley was that guy that stepped up and, was at least solid for us. He wasn't great. He wasn't all pro. He wasn't Pro Bowl level, but he was decent for us. He was still, some places he used to get beat, but he was still pretty solid for the Niners this season. But now that he's out with a high ankle sprain, we saw with Jimmy and his high ankle sprain, he missed almost 6 to 8 weeks. He missed majority of the season last year. So Mosley, this could possibly be a season-ending injury for Mosley. Even if the Niners do make the playoffs, if he doesn't come back, we're screwed, especially because the Niners don't care about the position of corner. Because the Niners, if they really did, they would have gotten some guy in the free agency, or they would have gotten drafted a second-round corner. But instead, the Niners, we're fine with our corners. We have faith in our pass rush. We'll win in the trenches. We're screwed without Emmanuel Mosley. Simple as that. I don't know who you're going to replace Emmanuel Mosley with because Brett's already out. So your guys are Josh Norman, K'Wan Williams, who's solid, but Josh Norman is just straight up horrible in coverage. And Diablo Lorne and Ambry Thomas are both rookies. So I don't know what the Niners are doing at corner. I don't know. It's just not looking good right now.
Too late.
It is too late. It's frustrating. Moving on, we already talked about this in the chat. The chat was already talking about it, but can the 49ers beat the Bengals without Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, if they play Trey Lance, and they won't. See, to me, when Deebo Samuel's out, he creates not just the big plays, but the misdirection, the mystery, the deception. You can put him at wide receiver. You can put him at running back. When he's at running back, and the defense is in man-to-man coverage, the cornerback doesn't know where to line up. He lines up at linebacker. It's like, oh my God. He creates so much confusion, and you can leverage that to create so many big plays for other people. When he's out, all you have is a run game that's averaging 3 yards a carry and a mediocre one-read quarterback who doesn't throw down the field. So the play has to be perfect. The play call has to be perfect every time, and it's never going to be perfect every time. So if you bring in Trey Lance, he's going to miss throws too, but at least there's going to be this mystery. Teams won't be scouted, won't be prepared for him, and he'll give you the big play. So can the Niners beat the Bengals without Deebo? Yes! But it's going to require some serious creativity and outside the box thinking that Kyle Shanahan hasn't showed recently. The only good idea he's had all year was to move Deebo Samuel to running back, which is something he's done in the past. So I'd like to see him, he'd have to really surprise us.
Now, obviously, Trey Lance is one of those reasons possibly the Niners could beat the Bengals with Trey Lance. But my answer is a little bit different. The Niners can beat the Bengals without Deebo Samuel if Kyle Shanahan has a perfect game plan. And it's really hard to have a perfect game plan. Kyle Shanahan doesn't always have a perfect game plan. But there are occasionally some of those games that Kyle Shanahan's wow, Kyle Shanahan is doing amazing stuff. Like the Rams game in 2020, Sunday Night Football. Jimmy Garoppolo had an ankle injury. You had Aaron Donald on the other side, on the defensive side. And what did Kyle Shanahan do? He decided not to make Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball. he decided to use Debo in a lot of jet sweeps. He got the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands like this, out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. And the Niners beat the Rams, and they weren't favored to beat the Rams because we had a bunch of injuries. Jimmy Garoppolo had coming off that ankle sprain, and we still beat the Rams on Sunday Night Football. You look at that Saints game. Jimmy Garoppolo played well in that Saints game, but there were some things that Kyle Shanahan was pulling out of a hat. Like Kyle Shanahan was just wowing me with his game plan. Some of the stuff like handing off making Debo toss to Kyle Juszczyk, and then Kyle Juszczyk tossing it to Raheem Mostert, something like that. Some of those plays where I'm like, Kyle Shanahan is really thinking outside of the box, and he's wowing me. But do I think Kyle Shanahan can do that every week? No. But if Kyle Shanahan does do this against the Bengals and he has a perfect drawn-up game plan for this week, do I think they could beat the Bengals without Debo Samuel? Possibly. I do think so. But do I bet on it? Do I think Kyle Shanahan? Am I 100% sure that Kyle Shanahan can do that? No. But the better option, like you said, I feel like the better option would be to put in Trey Lance because Jimmy can't do nothing without Debo. Mm-hmm. When you limit the run game and the run game isn't working and Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the football to win you football games, can he do that? No, he can't do that. Even if you look at it in the beginning of the season, Jimmy struggled in the Philly game. Jimmy struggled against the Packers game. Who was that one bright spot? Who was that guy that would catch a screen pass and run 50, 60 yards and take it to the house? Debo Samuel. Now, if Debo Samuel is hurt in this game, the only two ways I see them winning is if Kyle Shanahan calls a perfect game plan, which I do not bet on because I don't know. I'm not confident in him calling a perfect game plan because he hasn't called a perfect game plan the whole season. I haven't seen a perfect game plan since that game on Sunday Night Football against the Rams. So, do I think Kyle Shanahan can call a perfect game plan? I'm not confident in it because I haven't seen it for almost a year. But do I think they can win with Trey Lance? Possibly, yes, because Trey Lance can do so much more. He automatically boosts the run game. Or with Jimmy Garoppolo, you take Debo out of the equation, and the run game is easier to stop with Jimmy Garoppolo because nobody's worried about Jimmy Garoppolo. When he hands the ball off, when Jimmy hands the ball off, nobody's like, oh, let me watch Jimmy. What is Jimmy doing? No, they're like, okay, it's another handoff. Let me just go and tackle Elijah Mitchell. So with Trey Lance, when you put in Trey Lance, like, we're like, okay, is it Trey Lance? Is it Elijah Mitchell? Is it Trey Lance? Who is it? So the only two ways I see the Niners beating him is if Kyle Shanahan calls a perfect game plan or if you possibly play Trey Lance. Amin the Dream, I watched Burrow sucks under pressure. Key to winning defensively, rush 5, drop 6 in coverage. They may have to have Warner take safety snaps and move Ward to corner, play zone 2. I mean, even if the Niners do well on defense, if Debo doesn't play, like I said, if Debo doesn't play, can Jimmy Garoppolo make plays with his arm if he's a starter, which most likely he is? I don't know. Because the defense, even if you look at the Seattle game, the defense played fine. The defense wasn't the reason we lost the game. Even the first time we played Seattle, the defense wasn't the issue. It was the offense and Jimmy Garoppolo just not being able to make plays. And the offense just not being able to produce and go down the field. So I'm not really worried about the defense in this game. My biggest concern is what are we going to be able to do on offense without Debo Samuel? That's my biggest question mark.
See.
I mean, he really didn't get that creative. I mean, he ran the ball all game, and now he can't do that. Can he make Jimmy a better QB? No, he can't make Jimmy Garoppolo a better QB. Moving on to the next topic. This was a little bit of a debate on Twitter. Everybody was talking about it on Twitter after the game. About that holding or pass interference call, and I think it was from Sherfield and like third and goal. And my question to you is, should we blame the refs for the loss against Seattle?
Hell no. That's the weakest thing ever. And it's like, you pointed it out. You made the great dude. Amin, you killed it. You would be a great journalist. The Niners are over here complaining about one call in a game that wasn't the final play of the game. There was another play after that. One call. I mean, the week before, there was a touchdown run for Debo Samuel that, I mean, it looked borderline, like George Kittle may have held someone. It was borderline. And the Vikings complained, and they sounded like losers. And George Kittle really rubbed it in and be like, oh, why don't you just make better plays? And everyone's applauded George Kittle. Hey, same rule applies, dude. Make better plays. I was watching the film today with Jackhammer, and even though it's borderline, he gets slightly held on his shoulder. He gets free. The ball hits him in both hands and he drops it. Dude, catch the ball. And then there's fourth down. So, no, do not blame the refs. The Niners were the team that showed up unprepared. The Niners were the team that pretty much no-showed the game. That's on them. And if you really want to go deep into like the calls in this game and you really feel like the Niners in this particular game got screwed, well, you could look at last week where the Vikings got screwed. It evens out over time. So I don't want to hear that excuse.
Yep, I put it on Twitter yesterday.
That was great.
For the people that are complaining about the penalties, what did George Kittle say last week? What did George Kittle say last week? Mike Zimmer was like, these guys hold every play and the refs call it. The refs sometimes don't call it, sometimes they call it. What did George Kittle say in the press conference? The reporter said what Mike Zimmer said on Mike Zimmer's comments, and George Kittle said, it's the NFL. Sometimes you get calls, sometimes you don't get calls. But instead of complaining about it, tell your guys to make better plays. And that rule also applies here. Mm-hmm. The Niners should have made better plays. The Niners were the favorite to win the game. The Niners were favored to win the game, but it's not like Seattle balled down and didn't have any turnovers. Seattle definitely played a great game. But the amount of turnovers that Seattle had, it was almost like Seattle didn't even want to win.
That's true.
But the Niners didn't want to win even more.
That's true.
It was like one of those things where it's like, it's not like Seattle played a perfect game. No, Seattle had a turnover on the goal line. A turnover on third and goal, they could have just kicked a field goal and iced the game pretty much. But it was a fumble on Gerald Everett. Another fumble by Gerald Everett. Russell Wilson also had that interception, I'm pretty sure. Russell has an interception like that. But, like, there was a lot of turnovers by the Seattle Seahawks. There was an interception in the end zone where Gerald Everett was wide open. Wide open. He kicks it up to K'Wan Williams. Interception. Yeah. So, like, it was almost as if, like, the Seattle Seahawks didn't want to win the game. But the Niners didn't want to win it even more. Right. And that's, like, the biggest issue. Is like, we saw last week with Mike Zimmer, like, George Kittle said what he said. The Niners should have made better. You tell your guys to make better plays. This applies here. If the Niners played better and they didn't have turnovers and they were able to score, take the ball downfield, and they were able to produce, the offense was able to play well, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now, I get it. It probably should have been called a PI. But in the game against the Seattle Seahawks, with how mediocre the Seattle Seahawks were playing that game, it shouldn't have even gone to that point. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't have even gone to that point. So I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, it's because of the refs we lost, da-da-da. And, like, I've heard, like, I sent out that tweet. Everybody's like, oh, well, I can complain if our cornerbacks are trash and Jimmy Garoppolo's trash and da-da-da. I'm like, it shouldn't have even gone to that point. So, like, I don't want to hear, like, oh, things are trash and that is trash. Like, it shouldn't have even gone to that point. Now, if it was a game, like, against the Rams or, like, the Buccaneers or something like that, if it's a game that's close and the Niners are doing all they can and it's a game-deciding, it was a game-deciding thing, but against Seattle Seahawks, you should have won easily. Easily, especially how bad the Seattle Seahawks have been struggling. The Seattle Seahawks have been struggling all season, and the Niners should have easily won that football game. I don't want to hear it was because the refs didn't call the PI. No, the Niners shouldn't even been in that predicament in the first place. So I don't want to hear it was because of the refs. No, the Niners shouldn't have been in that spot anyways. And like what George Kittle said, tell your guys to make better plays. And if the Niners simply made better plays, they wouldn't be in that situation. Moving on to the next topic, Aziz Al-Shaair is balling out this year. Straight up balling out this year. He is dominating. And last week was, obviously we lost in Seattle, but I call it the Aziz game because Aziz had like 16 tackles, half a sack. Aziz was just dominating. He was all over the field. But now I ask you the question, who is the better linebacker? Aziz Al-Shaair or Dre Greenlaw?
Oh, it's Aziz. It's not even close. I mean, Aziz is so good where you're asking this year, who's the best linebacker on the team, Aziz or Warner? And honestly, this year it's been Aziz. Aziz is having the best season I've had from a 49ers linebacker. I mean, he's playing the best I've seen a linebacker play since Bowman or Willis. I mean, just the sheer tackle numbers. Like, Warner's really smart and he makes great plays in coverage, but he's not the tackler and the hitter and the mover that Aziz Al-Shaair is. It's crazy. He's really freaking good. And the way I look at it is 2 players showed up to this game in Seattle, Aziz and Kittle. That's pretty much it. And that means that those are 2 of your best players on the team right there. DJ Jones. Oh, yeah, and DJ. My bad. Sorry, DJ. Those 3 players right there showed up for sure. DJ Jones played really well.
Yep. No, it's hands down Aziz. Greenlaw was the guy that before the season I called him on the comb for. I was like, Greenlaw's the guy that I have as my breakout player of the year. But Greenlaw obviously got hurt week 1, but Aziz has just been straight up dominating this year. Like, I didn't see that coming. We were all like, Greenlaw, Greenlaw, Greenlaw. And then Aziz popped out of nowhere, and he's just been playing well. And, like, I think it's gone to that point where it's like, who's playing better this season? Is it Aziz or is it Fred? And this season, I got to say it's Aziz. Aziz has been dominating this season. He's been all over the field. He's been making tackles. And he was kind of doing what Fred Warner was doing last year, where the team was banged up. The team had his injuries, and Fred Warner was that guy that stepped up, and he made the plays. He was all over the field. He was making those tackles. So he was kind of doing – Aziz is kind of doing what Fred was doing last year. And, like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, Aziz, I don't think he's going to get the recognition for it this year. Like, we saw it in 2018 when Fred had that – not 2019 when Fred had that Super Bowl year where we made it to Super Bowl. And Fred was pretty good. But nobody recognized Fred as this, like, top linebacker in the game until the season after. And I think that's going to happen with Aziz. Aziz has been playing like an elite linebacker, but do I think he's going to get the recognition from the media this season and, like, be considered a top 10 linebacker in football? No, I don't think so. Maybe next year if he continues to play at the same level.
Right.
But do I think Aziz is better than Greenlaw this year, especially this season? Yeah, because Greenlaw made the majority of the season, and Aziz is one of those guys that stepped up, and he's just been dominating this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
good for Aziz, man. He really was one of 3 players who showed up to Seattle. Good for him.
Yeah, so did Kittle and so did DJ Jones, but Aziz stepped up when
I mean, like Trent Williams did too, of course. Like those 4 guys.
Trent Williams pretty much is dominating.
Yeah, Trent Williams too. He goes without saying.
Yeah, Trent Williams pretty much every game. You don't got to worry about Trent Williams. Trent Williams is doing Trent Williams is doing his job. So, but
and Bosa had a sack. I'm sorry, there's 5. I'm sorry.
No, but this season in specific, Aziz has definitely been better than Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Moving on to, I think, the last topic of the day.
Okay.
Should the 49ers fire Richard Hightower after Sunday's performance? If you don't know, Richard Hightower is the special teams coach.
Absolutely, I think they should. I mean, I don't even know if they need to fire him today, but I think they need to find a better special teams coach next year. I mean, I think special teams has been an issue for the 49ers for years. Not just this year, but I feel like last year they were losing games because they couldn't get people to catch punts. They had River Craycraft, Richie James Jr., Dante. I mean, it was a joke. I really feel like they haven't prioritized that side of the ball at any point, from players to coaches, and it's costing them games. It shouldn't cost you games. Like the Niners sometimes I feel like they'd be better off just letting the ball bounce and not even trying to return it sometimes. So yeah, I think they could do better than him. What do you think?
Yeah, then I should fire Richard Hightower. The special teams has gone worse in that Vikings game, and it got even worse in that Seattle game. I feel like the special team is getting worse. Every single game is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. He should be gone. I don't think it should be this season because I don't know if the Niners want to be without a special teams coach this season. But after the season, do I think they should find a better special teams coach? Definitely, because the special teams, as much as people don't think of it as an important part of a football team, it definitely is. Kick returns, punt returns, safety, it's just an important part of a football team. So, and Richard Hightower, I don't know, special teams just hasn't been good, and it's been getting progressively worse week after week after week. So I think they should definitely find another special teams coach, and another coach that I think they should also get another, replace after the end of the season is Rich Scangarello. Yeah. He is not a good QB coach. Bring in someone else, whether that might be Jeff Garcia, whoever it might be. He is just not a good QB coach. And I don't want him learning the same things that Garoppolo's been learning. I don't know if it's Garoppolo. If Garoppolo is just bad, we obviously don't like Garoppolo, but if it's something that Rich Scangarello has been teaching him, but Rich Scangarello is not the guy at QB coach. Those are the 2 positions that I'm like, both those coaches have to be gone. QB coach and special teams coach, both those guys have to be gone and be replaced at the end of the season because both of those guys just are garbage. Straight up, they're not good. They're not good. And we're seeing it on the field. Special teams been gone worse, and Jimmy Garoppolo, it's just not been good. So both those guys should be gone after the end of the season.
Agree. Sorry, nothing personal, strictly business.
Well, that basically wraps up the show. I appreciate you for joining me, Grant. It's an honor to.
Thanks for having me, man.
anytime I get to talk football with Grant, it's a good time. Anytime I get to
It's a
talk
great
football,
time. You got to call into the Cone phone, man. People been asking, like, where's Amin? I'm like, I don't know. Probably working hard.
I
School.
got I gotta call into the cone phone. I'm probably gonna call in this
Got
weekend
to.
if you do a cone
I'm
phone.
gonna be doing the Cone phone from Cincinnati this weekend. Call in.
Oh, that's dope. That's
From the
dope.
Natty. Yeah.
Cincinnati, maybe if the Niners win this week, it'll be a good week for you to go to Cincinnati. But then if they lose, you're like gonna come back home. You're like, oh, the Niners lost. But
All I got to do is make sure I perform. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know if the Niners will perform, but if you perform, that's good.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I had a lot of fun. Amin, this was great.
I appreciate it. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you for joining me. If you haven't checked out Grant's channel, which you probably have, because pretty much all my subscribers are Grant subscribers. But if you are that 1 in a million that aren't subscribed to Grant's channel, go do so. Just do it. You will not regret it. Grant is one of the best Niner media people that I know, and and his fans love him also. He's super engaged. He's super engaging with his fans. Like me, like Waruna, and all those guys. So if you haven't checked out Grant's channel, go do so. Follow him on Twitter if you haven't already. Also, both those links are in the description. You will not regret it. Grant is one of the best in the game. Period. And if you're not subbed to my channel, please go do so. It'll be greatly appreciated. Hit this video with a like. I appreciate you for joining me, Grant. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.